In this video, I'm going to be making a toy box for our little girl. I wanted to make something a little bit more special so she can hopefully treasure it for years to come. But I also wanted it to be a nice piece of furniture because it's going in our living room. And then she can take it with her if she wants it in future. I got the wood for the lid of the toy box from a local supplier called Any Wood GB. I've used their wood for quite a few different projects now, and Nathan got in touch to see if he could provide some wood to help out on any projects. So I popped down and picked out this chestnut slab for the toy box build. They also now have a website, which I'll link to in the description, and offer shipping so you can order directly from them. They've got a range of live edge slabs to turn in blanks, all at really competitive prices. So go and check out their website if you're interested in a wood supplier. I used a frame to decide on the area of the slab to use, then cut it slightly oversized using the track saw. On the underside there was a slightly soft area which I decided to treat with some wood hardener, and since I had a little bit left I decided to treat the whole lid with a coat of it. Chestnut isn't the hardest or toughest of wood, so I'm going to be taking a few steps throughout the build to try and make it a little bit more robust for the toy box. I did an initial sand of the top using 80 grit to remove the CNC flattening marks, and then moved on to the next steps for toughening up the slab. I added some superglue to the soft area to further reinforce this. I actually find cheap superglue is excellent to penetrate the wood as it's really thin, and I find it works a little bit better than epoxy. The next thing I did was an epoxy flood coat on the whole slab, which I worked into the wood to help stabilise it. I don't want this slab to look like shiny epoxy when it's finished though, so there's a little bit of work to do yet. There were lots of voids in the slab which looked amazing, but being a toy box really needed filling. Because these were naturally dark areas, I used black epoxy for this, but to keep it looking as natural as possible, I used charcoal rather than dye in the resin. For the box, I'm using some pine furniture board that I bought locally, which were cut to size using the track saw and table saw. For the legs, I'm using some ash that I have left over from some other projects. This needed cutting down on the bandsaw and milling into 4 legs. I've shown this quite a lot on my channel recently, so I'm not going to show you the full process of this. The knot holes in these also got filled with charcoal resin, and then I cut these to size using my miter saw and zero clearance fence for less tear out. I gave all of the parts a good sand down, ready for assembly. To assemble the box, the 4 legs will be attached to the 4 side panels using dowels. I started using this cheap dowel jig, but quickly gave up and moved on to my drill press for more accurate holes. I dry fitted everything first to make sure that the fit was good, and then I could glue and clamp the box into place. The base of this box is actually going to be halfway up, because there's going to be a main top opening for the top half, and then the bottom half will be a drawer. I marked and cut the base, including the cutouts for the legs, and then attached this using glue and pocket hole screws. Next I moved on to staying in, which I used India ink for. I'd tested this out on a few offcuts first, so I was happy this was going to work okay. On the lid there was a small amount of the live edge which I'd purposely included, but it was a little bit rough where the bark had been. So I sanded this smooth to keep some of the live edge character. After sanding the lid there was a few little pinholes in the resin, so I filled these with Superglue. It was at this point I realised that I'd forgotten to put the Roundover on the box before staining it. This was a pretty vital step because the edges were pretty lethal for a baby being so sharp. Thankfully I had plenty of the India ink left and I was always going to give it a second coat anyway, so I added the Roundover to the box with my palm router. I then moved on to the drawer box. Initially I was going to make this from MDF with a pine front, but I had enough of the 25mm pine board left to make the whole drawer from it. And I thought since this was a toy box and it was most likely going to take a beating over the years, why not make it as sturdy as possible. I added stain to the drawer box and then gave the main box another coat. I then gave the lid its final sand before applying 4 coats of polyurethane varnish. Usually I would use wood oil and then use my wax oil to protect it, but I wanted this lid to be a little bit tougher, so I decided to varnish it instead. I didn't want it to look varnished though, so I used a satin finish. I used some heavy duty soft close drawer slides for the drawer hardware. which was fitted in place using a plywood spacer. I put a spacer under the bottom and then I could mount the drawer front using some double-sided tape and then screwed this in from the back. I then added a couple of coats of polyurethane varnish to the box. To avoid any chance of this drying white if not applied thin enough, I added a few drops of the India ink which worked a treat. To attach the top to the base, I used some of these simple black hinges, and then to take the weight of the lid and prevent any trapped fingers, I installed a set of soft close struts. These work really well and I'm over the moon with the final result. And I think it gets the seal of approval. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. As always, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.